Namaste and welcome to Urban Chatterati. This is Abhinav Prakash, and today I'm here with Abhijit Mitra to discuss the recent labor law, the employment law passed by the government of Haryana, which mandates 75% reservation for the locals in all the private sector jobs in Haryana, which are paying salary less than 50,000. We think this is a disastrous move by the Haryana government, and this has the potential to unravel the entire economic growth rate or the growth story of the Haryana. So, Vijit, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I wish it could have been to discuss happier things. Alas, we constantly discuss government failure.
That's the tragedy of India, Abhijit. But what do you think about this new employment law? I mean, you are asking all the private sector companies to reserve 75% jobs for the locals up to the salary of 50,000, which basically includes majority of the jobs in Haryana. And the problem is that this will completely destroy the labor intensive manufacturing and the service sector for which the at least the Gurgaon region of the Haryana is known for, because beyond Gurgaon you really don't have much of industry in Haryana.
Right. Remember, Gurgaon has taken off as a manufacturing hub. Not just Gurgaon, the NCR area, basically an extension of Delhi, has taken off as a manufacturing hub precisely because of the international connectivity of Delhi and the metro infrastructure of Delhi and things like that. Do you know, to get from, say, Bahadurgarh, which is closer to Rohini to the north of Delhi, to Gurgaon, it is easier for you to drive down to your local Delhi metro station and take the metro down than it is to use Haryana state government transport and connectivity, of which there is almost none. Right. Now, urban centers depend on this kind of connectivity. In America, for example, you have that entire Boswash corridor, from Boston to Washington, which is an extremely high productivity, extremely high, a heavily industrialized corridor that includes whole states. Like almost the whole state of Delaware would be included in that. Right. Now, for Haryana to suddenly come up with this law, uh, even its skilled workforce, if you go to Gurgaon and look at the upper echelons of all that employment out there, it is overwhelmingly expatriates and people from other states and things like that. Number one. Number two, I don't understand what is this arbitrary 50,000 rupee cutoff, right? How you decided what is 50,000 rupees and what is just over, what is the skill set? Because people are employed based on skill sets, which can vary. The same job can get you 30,000 rupees, or it can get you about 60, 70,000 rupees, depending on how good you are based on experience and things like that. That is another issue. Third issue is they haven't matched they don't even know what skill sets apply in the sub 50,000 rupee category. So the amount of lack of information, the lack of statistics that has gone into this is why I keep saying, India is generally, we're a statistics free country. We don't make policies based on statistics. We make policies based on feelings. And some clown has decided overnight to come up with this brilliant plan, and the clowns in charge have decided to implement it. uh,
I'm
there's a
sorry,
very
if you read the law, Abhijit, I'm not sure the clowns, but the bureaucrats have certainly designed it because it's a completely rent seeking law.
Of course, it's a complete rent-seeking law. The problem is bureaucrats have the ability to say, "Sir, ye kaam karega ya kaam nahi karega. This will work or this won't work." They don't even seem to have exercised that. Even the due diligence in terms of a job, of doing their own jobs, have not been exercised with this bill. Right? Uh, this is going to be disastrous because on one hand, if you have a certain job category, say driver or a domestic cleaner or things like that, they would come under 20,000 rupees a month, right? which is anyway overwhelmingly going to be local because drivers and domestic help can't travel for long distances. What worries me is that 20 to 30, right up to 50,000 category, which includes your sort of soft white collar jobs, BPO jobs, and things like that. Now, even those jobs require an enormous amount of training, right? You can't just come up. Do you even have the vocational training centers for that? Do you even have the skills available for it? And because most of Haryana's GDP is concentrated in that NCR, Delhi NCR area, overwhelming, there's literally no real industry in Haryana outside that region. It works because of the mobility of labor, because of the fluidity of labor. If you remove that one thing, you tell me, who is willing to come from North Haryana, close to the Punjab border or Uttarakhand border, drive 5 hours a day just to get up uh, uh, to this region to do that job? And for 50,000, you're not going to get somebody to drive up 5 hours a day and go back 5 hours a day. If it was 3-4 lakhs, I can find you some reasonable amount of people, but even then 5 hours a day, no. You don't even have the connectivity to staff these jobs at these sub 50,000 rupee jobs. On the other hand, somebody from Noida who's quite desperate would be more than willing to come because he's got a direct line of connectivity. He gets there, he changes at Central Secretariat, and then or wherever, I think there are several different Oscars. He changes out there and he's all the way to Gurgaon, or he changes at Central Secretariat and he goes all the way up to Bahadurgarh or further north.
Yeah.
None of this works. I've looked at this law from every way possible, the positives, the negatives. None of it works. It shows a lack of statistics, a lack of economic understanding, a lack of economic planning, a lack of understanding urbanization, a lack of understanding transport mechanics. It seems to be a compounded all of government failure.
Well, I fully agree. So I was just traveling towards Ghaziabad today, and you can see that RRTS, that Rapid Rail Transport System, which is being built from Meerut to Delhi. And once that built, Abhijit, like completely built, because it will go up to Gurgaon and Haryana, uh, it will take only half an hour from Ghaziabad to reach Gurgaon. So it's much more easier for someone from Ghaziabad, forget Delhi, to reach Haryana in 30 minutes after 2 or 3 years than traveling from other parts of Haryana. The point here is that the government has completely confused the economic geography with the administrative geography. So 14 out of 22 districts of Haryana are part of the national capital region. At least they should have said that, we will count the NCR citizens as the domicile or the locals. At least they could have done that, because that also solves lots of this economic geography problem.
Exactly. And see, the second issue here is that, talking about the geography of the region, the only reason Gurgaon took off was proximity to the airport. Because Delhi airport, you go about 15 minutes south, you reach Gurgaon. Right. And you look at the major industrial centers of Gurgaon, or the services center of Gurgaon, they're all within those 15 minutes and then further on from there, but they all come on that national highway. Now, with the new airport being planned in Noida and a train system dedicated just from one airport to the other airport, one is going to be international, the other is going to be the regional airport. You connect that and you connect a straight highway from this airport to that airport. I think you're seeing a lot more chances, and with the Meerut highway coming in, you're seeing a lot more chances of everything shifting to Noida, right?
Definitely.
I think they've gravely miscalculated. You can introduce, even the damage to
Already
business.
shifting, Abhijit. You see, all the major manufacturers of assembly line, like mobile phone and manufacturing, is all coming to Noida, Greater Noida region. They're not going to Gurgaon anymore, anyways.
And anyway, the price in Gurgaon has gone up. The land prices in Gurgaon have gone up so much, you really can't even afford to set up things there anymore. Noida prices are much, much cheaper. It represents much better value for money. You have much greater connectivity, things like that. You look at pharmaceutical manufacturers, many of them actually stock up in Noida instead of coming to Haryana to stock up, right? So there's a lot of change happening out there. I think the government has very, very badly misread the economic situation. It's one thing to do this in Bombay, where you've kind of got a captive audience. There's no interstate metropolis, so to say. So they've got no option except to create a number of low-paying jobs, get rid of, say, one qualified semi-white-collar person and employ three not white-collar persons for that, and artificially inflate your employment numbers. But it hasn't done that. See, the answer to creating jobs in Haryana was to create skilling. It was to create better education, more education and better quality education. They chose not to do that. Instead, they chose to pass on their burden onto the private sector.
Exactly.
Right.
And you see, the government-owned enterprises are exempt from this law.
And isn't that amazing? See, this is how you destroy. Haryana is today a rich state because of its interconnectivity and its connectedness to Delhi. In the next 10 to 15 years, that entire complex is going to be destroyed.
You
And they
know,
have nobody but themselves to blame. And the shame of it is, it's a BJP government that is meant to be good for national integration. How is this good for national integration?
not at all. No one can defend it. But Abhijit, you see this thing that one of the reason why Gurgaon became such a success story because it was completely out of the government interference. Gurgaon was literally built at midnight when the
Exactly.
government was looking the other way. So all these factories started shifting from Delhi when you started coming up with regulation, anti-pollution, and all those things, and they found a great venue in Gurgaon. And most of these manufacturing units, storage, and all those things started as illegal. Basically, they were violating all the laws of the government, and this is how Gurgaon was built. That tells you that the government interference in India and the laws are so bad that the companies are better off violating them than to actually follow them. Do you think the same thing happening in this case as well?
I do see there won't be violation, because now these days we have much better enforcement, which wasn't there. I mean, electronics allow you to enforce. The information age allows for better enforcement and things like that, which is also code for better extortion and intimidation. I remember growing up, Palam Vihar, the road on the old Gurgaon road to go to Palam Vihar used to be full of dacoits. You used to be scared to go there. You only went there during the daytime because there were gundas literally within about 10, 15 minutes of Palam airport in those days. Right.
Which year? I mean, which decade?
This was in the 80s.
Who that
Yeah,
close?
that close. That close.
I
Even
can
now,
understand because I've read that Vasant Kunj area in the early 90s, if when it started coming up, it was very difficult to get to those colonies, and you had these jackals and all howling outside
we
those posh
used to
colonies,
live
today's posh colonies of Vasant Kunj.
we used to live in these, you can still see them opposite the Hyatt Regency on Outer Ring Road. They're these tall government apartments, 8, 9, 10 stories high. We used to live on the seventh floor there. And in the evening after sunset, you simply weren't allowed to go out because there was no such thing as Outer Ring Road at that point of time. It was a jungle, and there were leopards out there. And our parents used to be scared that you will get carried away by a leopard and things like that. You didn't even go to RK Puram market without an adult with you, because you never know when there was a leopard or something going to come. And this was in the 80s, right?
Imagine how we have completely changed Delhi's geography in the last 20, 30 years.
It's totally changed. Vasant Kunj, going to Vasant Kunj in those days, it was easier to probably go abroad than it was to go to Vasant Kunj, or especially to Gurgaon.
The
In the
JNU,
90s,
when JNU up until late 90s, it has these great ponds inside the JNU campus, and the Vasant Vihar, where you have the embassy area and all those market. Up until late 80s and 90s, there used to be a big pond. The entire area was basically a water body. we completely destroyed it. The entire water system has been destroyed, and the water scarcity. So it's the poshest area of Delhi, one of the poshest areas, but there's no water because we literally destroyed the water.
It's the same in Surajkund. I remember in the 80s, it had a huge, big, beautiful lake.
Hmm.
That Surajkund Mela used to happen out there. It used to be, I remember it used to take us 1.5, 2 hours to get to Surajkund from Chanakyapuri, mind you. Today, you would think of it almost as like a 1 hour, less than a 1 hour trip on good, because of good roads. But in those days, you had to take these very strange roads and go all the way to Surajkund. Delhi has changed completely. And the problem is, I don't think our rulers have gotten beyond that 1980s mindset. They think Gurgaon has just come up organically for no reason at all, and it is the genius of the Haryanavi people that created Gurgaon. It wasn't. That's
So
not the way
basically,
cities
we
come up.
destroyed the entire geography of the southern Delhi and the Haryana. We destroyed the water bodies. We destroyed the plateaus and all Aravalli hills. And in the end, for nothing, because we are destroying the private enterprise as well, which was at least we're
Exactly.
getting something in return.
Exactly. And I don't think the government even realizes what it has done. That is what really scares me. There was no consultation on this. There was no public consultation on this. We still don't know what statistics it was based on. Right? There's something very, very wrong happening with government. And it's really scary because this isn't as simple as, a one-off piece of legislation. You're destroying an ecosystem that's been built up, an industrial business ecosystem that's been built up over the last 20, 30 years. And you can't get it back overnight like that. What do you do?
I think the Haryana people now can peacefully do the farming.
I think they're going to go back to farming. I think that's it kind of serves Haryana right in that sense.
No, don't say it doesn't serve
No,
the
no, no.
people.
It's true. It's
Because
Yatha
because of
Raja
their
Tatha
wrong
Praja.
policies, the people shouldn't be
No,
suffering.
no, 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 no. It's Yatha Raja Tatha Praja. Let's be clear about it. This has come about because of popular demand. And this kind of populism, and let's be absolutely clear what it is. This kind of populism will help you win elections, but it will destroy your future and it will destroy the future of your children. All right. So whatever jobs that even existed that went to locals out there, they are now going to go out. There was a huge support ecosystem for all these people.
Yes.
The sub 50,000 rupee jobs, like basic jobs for Haryana University graduates, or complete blue collar jobs, which are also going to go out of the state now. It's going to take time. So, the punishment won't come during Manohar Lal Khattar's tenure, but Haryana will be punished.
I'm pretty sure about it. So there was this guy I was talking to, and he's a Haryanavi, and he owns manufacturing in the central Haryana, so not even in Gurgaon region. And he was very worried. He's saying that I don't know what to do because almost all my jobs come under that slab of local reservation, and it's not that I don't want to hire the local. My experience of hiring the local is very bad because none of them want to work at those wages because all of them have their 10-acre or some acre land, so they are anyways pretty much well off. And then if you employ them, you have to deal with the labor unrest because they're always doing, acting the local union baji and all those things. So, and he's a Haryanavi himself. He was so scared of what to do now.
Because you have that 75% quota, what is going to happen is that even a normally good worker now feels his job is secure because the company has to maintain a 75% quota. So it gives him a sort of bargaining power to not do his job.
Yeah.
Right. So you will actually see a drop in productivity. Even if you go back to what I said, sack the one semi white collar worker and replace him with 3 blue collar workers. Even in that, those 3 blue collar workers aren't going to have the same productivity as that one white collar worker. You'll be spending the same amount of money to do a far less efficient job.
Yeah.
And you'll have absolutely no leverage in terms of employer-employee relations. And that's the end. Because remember, quality is a function of labor. People keep forgetting that. Right? Quality isn't about, unfortunately, in India, we've got this great enamorment with high quality. Everything is high tech city, high tech this, high tech that, and nothing, and nobody ever wants
World
to
class,
manufacture
world class.
world class, right? The thing is, you get world class and you get high tech based on the quality of your labor. Till you get hire and fire laws and things like that, you can't ensure the quality control. Unless you are able to fire, you aren't able to ensure the business, the mobility of business to, reorient the business towards more profitable areas or more profitable manufacturing and techniques and things like that, that you require to be successful. So, in on top of the 100 different ways that we have in India for killing off the private sector, this is one more new and innovative method. It's a particularly sadistic thing. It's almost like the emperor's imperial torturer, who is not happy with having 100 different methods of torturing his victim to death, coming up with a whole new method of torturing. Like, oh, we could have pulled him apart on the rack, or he could have been hung, drawn, and quartered. Now let me try pressure cooking the guy, alive.
Slowly
Put him in a
boil
large,
him.
yeah, or fry him in oil. Let's make tandoor as a form of torture.
Yeah, yeah.
This is what we do to businesses in this country.
Yeah. And this enables the government to completely deflect this accountability, because you have not invested in school education, you have not invested in college education, you have not invested in the human resource. So your workforce in the state is not fit for those jobs. And then you are forcing the private sector to carry the burden. And I'm completely against any kind of reservations in the private sector. So lots of people keep saying, well, you should have the extension of reservation for the OBCs, for the SC/STs to the private sector. I'm completely against it. I think that's the government's responsibility to do that, right? So,
Exactly.
so
Look,
you give in the education whatever you want to do, but you should not force the private enterprise to do these things.
exactly. But look, this is not something that governments understand. They think they've come to power and now all power is theirs, brains be damned. Right? And the sad part of this is they'll actually end up winning elections because of this.
Yeah, that's true. That's true for the last 70 years.
And they will see it as a validation. This is why I keep warning people: winning elections is not a sign of good policy. If it were, then Nehru and Indira Gandhi and Rajiv Gandhi were the best thing to happen to this country.
Baba, look at Arvind Kejriwal. Do you know there are around 18 colleges in Delhi University which are fully funded by the Delhi government? For the last 5 months, none of them have paid salaries to their staff and the faculty, because the Kejriwal government wants its own cronies to become the governing body member so they can control the college, which the colleges are registering because they want autonomy. So they've stopped salary payment. This is going on for 5 months. Did you hear about it?
No, I did not.
Same as the 5 months before they paid the salary, because there was a court order. So it's going on for almost a year. So they didn't pay for 5-6 months before. Then there was a court order, so they paid 5 months back. And again, the people are literally starving. The faculty, the associate professors are unable to pay fee of their children anymore. And same is happening in the schools, the so-called education revolution of this fraud government. Many of the people are not getting any salaries for months after month. But populism wins election.
What upsets me is that everybody's willing to hurl muck at the Congress and AAP and say, oh, look, you're all frauds. But when it comes to their own government doing this, absolute pin drop silence.
No, I will disagree. I think almost all the BJP supporters, almost all, have openly said they disagree with this policy and this is a wrong policy. And I think that differentiate at least the BJP support base from the other support base, because it's very critical of the BJP as well.
I disagree there. I've seen a lot of BJP supporters on Twitter criticize it. The point is, the government doesn't take Twitterati seriously. Remember, it's the problem is the people that they do take seriously refuse to criticize this.
Because maybe they are the member of the party, so they can't go against it. They can't take a public stand against it.
True, but there
might be doing that in the
outside of government as well who need to be speaking up against this, and they're not. And that's particularly disappointing.
No, because I know many people, especially from Haryana, who are in the BJP, and they are privately at least they're saying that this is wrong. Maybe they will say, but I think what is happening, the government is in a fix, because you have this entire Jat movement going on, this farmers' protest is actually.
Look, I completely understand that Manohar Lal Khattar is under attack for being the first non-Jat chief minister of Haryana. And the Jats want to punish him for being a Punjabi Baniya or whatever he is, but he's not a Jat. He can't pass off the political burden, that his own personal political burden, onto the rest of the state and onto the private sector.
No, but this was the deal which the BJP had with this JPP, if I'm not wrong, before the tie-up, that we are going to do this thing.
Unfortunately, and it should
This
have
was a
never
bold
happened.
promise, right? So,
Look, the country pays such a heavy price just for having Manohar Lal Khattar as chief minister. I don't think it's worthwhile. I don't think that trade-off is worthwhile. I'd rather see an Om Prakash Chautala as chief minister than Manohar Lal Khattar if this is the price to be paid.
But what makes you think that that will not be the price to be paid? Because Mr. Chautala will then again respond more to this thing, and perhaps he might say,
He may have, but see, that's a sort of hypothetical situation. The point is, it was a BJP government and it was Manohar Lal Khattar that did this, whereas the previous Jat governments hadn't done this.
Again, this is basically, you might say that this is surrendering to the blackmail, that if you don't give us the political power, we will make sure that things don't function. So you can't even give into that to any community,
You could have done a lot of other things. All right. You could have started setting up great universities and given reservations out there, created the workforce for that and things like that. You didn't.
There are 5,000 posts vacant in Delhi University. It's the 7th year of this government. They have not filled it up. What are you talking about?
There you go. There you go. They don't fill up what they have, and instead they pass the burden on to other people. I've never seen a more realistic interpretation of the Vetal on Vikram's back than these kind of government policies.
But coming to the law, Abhijit, if you read the law, so it provides for officers who are going to ratify the recruitments done by the private company. So you have to submit the report to those officer, and it's going to say, okay, this is right. So quarterly reports, and if you want to hire someone, beyond 25% who's a non-local, so that officer will decide whether it's legal or not, in the sense that. The officer is going to decide that whether the local skilled person is available or not. As you're saying, there's no data on that, or he may direct that you train the local person to do the job.
Yeah.
And any government officer can go, these government officers can go to the company on inspection on a 1-day notice. This is like worst form of Inspector Raz.
You know what that breeds, of course. That's just jargon for corruption.
Yes.
It's jargon for extortion, because even in GST, we know exactly what's happening. It's turned every little tax inspector to a little tin pot thulla who goes around extorting people, saying this has to be charged on luxury at 18%. You can't keep it at 12% or whatever. And they get away with it because there's no consequences for mislabeling. And what they do instead is, you may ultimately win your case. In fact, it's almost 99.99% certain that you will win your case against the guy. But because there will be no action against the guy, he will just keep doing it. If not to you, then to somebody else. Number one. Number two, he will set the hearing at some arbitration council 300-400 kilometers away, which means you have to keep going 300-400 kilometers, wasting 2-3 work days a week or every month to go there and do it. There is the added pressure of all of that. And the sheer amount of time that it will take, 4, 5, 6 months or whatever to continue doing this, he's made your life miserable.
Yeah.
It's just easier to pay him 50,000-60,000 rupees and tell him to shut up, rather than resolve it right there and have an accountability mechanism that if a tax inspector's classification does not fall, is found wrong by the tribunal, he or she will immediately be placed on 3-month suspension, and he or she will be docked 50% of their salary for the next 3 months. Right? You do things like that, laws can actually yield results. But when you create an inspector force like this, which is completely unaccountable, which can't be sacked, and we know the kind of protections bureaucrats have out here.
Abhijit, in Ghaziabad, there's a road which connects Vasundhara Vaishali region to the Noida Electronic City. It's, I think, Mohan Nagar Link Road. Uh, it is under repair for 1.5 years now, and it's a very critical road. It is a heavy traffic road. 1.5 years. So they dug it up for something, for some cable laying or water pipe laying, and still not finished. You're talking about
But why
accountability?
does that surprise you? You know, in Delhi, we've got two municipal corporations, right?
Yeah,
NDMC
I
and
know Delhi.
something
Delhi, I
else.
know very well. Yeah.
And they have fights amongst themselves. They will first dig up a road to fix the road. Then they'll dig up the same road to fix the electricity, the subterranean electricity. Then they'll dig up the same road to fix the water. Then they'll dig up the same road to fix the gas, something like that or the other.
I've seen
And
that since my student days in Faizabad.
you have places extremely high disposable income localities like Jorbag, which I think after Amrita Shergill Marg and where properties sell for 400 crores per property, Jorbag and Golf Links would be the next. But you go inside, the roads are an absolute disaster. Defense Colony, I've been on village kacha roads that are better than your Defense Colony inside road on either side of the canal out there.
Agreed,
This is
100%.
the kind of crap you have. But
Because
see,
there's no
if you don't,
accountability. Na? Those officers not never punished. So in this
they never
case,
punished.
you
They
should
never
punish
punished.
all the contractor, all the Jal Vibhag, Bijli Vibhag, and whoever is responsible. Punish all of them.
But tell me, why is it for 7 years now that this government hasn't brought in any kind of bureaucratic accountability? They keep saying lateral entry, but you look at lateral entry, everybody who comes in on lateral entry is invariably an IAS chaplus. Because the selection committee themselves are IAS and they only choose people who will say, हाँ boss, yes boss, जो भी आप बोलते हैं boss, वही सही है boss. सूरज uh, पूरब से नहीं उठता है, वो तो आपके चक्षु से उठता है जब आप सुबह वेक अप करते हैं. So this is the kind of lateral entry you have. This is the kind of total lack of accountability you have. I honestly don't know. This is why people keep complaining. Or I see the comments on your YouTube channel. They keep complaining, why is this Ganja Taklu so pessimist, and so on and so forth. Give me something to be optimistic about.
Some good food at Andhra Bhavan, Abhijit.
This is true. So even the quality of Andhra Bhavan has gone down somewhat.
Okay, so I'll have to check it. So you'll have to take me there someday.
Mm.
Okay, but Abhijit, thank you for talking to us on this very interesting topic. And thank you, audience, for listening to us. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel and also check out the membership program. Thank you once again.
Well, very well.